They were expelled by the galaxy, but Earth welcomed them, and the great ships of the Kythera drifted slowly through the darkness of space. Their hulls were cracked and scarred from battle. Inside the largest vessel, Commander Vexhai stood before the central viewing screen and watched the last of his people's homeworlds disappear behind them. The planet grew smaller and smaller until it was just another star in the endless black. "Commander," said Navigation Officer Keltara, her voice heavy with exhaustion, "the Consortium patrol ships are still following us. They maintain distance, but they watch everything we do." Vexhai's forearms moved nervously at his sides. The Kythera were tall beings with gray skin that changed color with their emotions. Right now, Vexhai's skin showed deep purple streaks of sadness and fear. He had led his people for 20 cycles, but never through anything like this. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked. 47 vessels, sir. We lost 3 more during the jump from Kythera Prime. Engine failures." Keltara paused and looked at her readings. "We carry 50,000 survivors. That is all that remains of our species." The weight of those words settled on everyone in the command center. 50,000 Kythera left from a population that once numbered in the billions. The Galactic Consortium had been very thorough in their work. 3 days ago, the Consortium Council had given their final judgment. The Kythera were guilty of the crime of cultural deviation and resistance to harmony protocols. Their punishment was exile from all civilized space. Any Kythera found within Consortium territory after 72 standard hours would be destroyed without question. The crime that had doomed them seemed so small now. The Consortium had demanded that all Kythera children above the age of 10 undergo neural conditioning. This process would remove their ability to think independently and make them peaceful and obedient citizens. The Kythera Council had refused. "Our children are not broken things that need fixing," Elder Morthak had told the Consortium judges. "Their minds are gifts to be treasured, not chains to be forged." The Consortium had not liked that answer. Vexhai remembered the evacuation. Cities burning as Consortium forces attacked, families torn apart as they ran for the escape ships, children crying for parents who would never come home. The lucky ones made it to the fleet. The rest became memories that would haunt the survivors forever. "Sir," came another voice from the communication station, "we are receiving distress signals from the medical ships. The elderly and wounded are dying faster than our doctors can help them. We need to find somewhere to land soon." Vexhai walked to the medical reports display. The numbers were bad and getting worse. Their people were dying not from weapons or violence, but from sadness and despair. The Kythera were a social species. Being cut off from their home, their culture, their world was like poison to their minds. "Engineering, report on ship status," Vexhai commanded. Chief Engineer Zondar appeared on the screen. His usually pristine workspace was now filled with sparking cables and broken equipment. "Commander, we are running on backup power in most sectors. The fusion reactors are stable but operating at 60% capacity. Life support systems are failing on the outer ships. We have maybe 2 weeks before critical systems start shutting down completely. 2 weeks to find a new home or watch as people die slowly in the cold emptiness of space." Vexhai felt the purple streaks on his skin grow darker. "Navigation, show me our current position and nearby systems," he ordered. The main screen changed to display a 3-dimensional map of local space. They were now in the Outer Rim territories, far from the core worlds of the Consortium. This was wild space, mostly unexplored and definitely unclaimed. It was also dangerous and empty. "Sir," Keltara said, studying her instruments carefully, "I am detecting something unusual. There is a small yellow star approximately 2 light years from our current position. It appears to have several planets, and I am picking up radio transmissions from the third world." "Radio transmissions?" Vexhai moved closer to look at the readings. "What kind of transmissions?" "Primitive but organized, sir. Mathematical sequences, entertainment broadcasts, and what appear to be communication networks. The technology level suggests early spaceflight capability, but no faster-than-light travel yet." This was interesting news. A young civilization might be friendly to refugees, or they might see the Kythera fleet as invaders and attack. But Vexhai realized they had no other choice. "What do we know about this system? Is it claimed by the Consortium?" Keltara checked her records. "No, sir. This region is listed as unexplored territory in all Consortium databases. They consider it too remote and primitive to be worth their attention." "Perfect. The Consortium's arrogance might finally work in the Kythera's favor. Plot a course for that system," Vexhai ordered. "Send word to all ships to prepare for another jump." We are going to meet our new neighbors. As the fleet began preparations for the journey, Vexhai returned to his private quarters. The room was small and simple, decorated only with a few items he had managed to save from his homeworld. A crystal sculpture his daughter had made in art class, a photo of his family from happier times, a book of ancient Kythera poetry. He picked up the photo and looked at the faces smiling back at him. His wife Talrine had died in the evacuation when Consortium forces bombed the city of Veltano. His daughter Zayara was somewhere in the fleet, working as a junior engineer. His son had volunteered to stay behind and help other families escape. Vexhai did not know if the boy was alive or dead. The Kythera had always been a peaceful people. They loved art, science, and philosophy. Their greatest joy was learning new things and creating beautiful works. They had joined the Galactic Consortium, hoping to share their knowledge and learn from other species. But the Consortium had changed over the centuries. What started as a community of equals had become an empire ruled by fear. Different ideas were dangerous. Independent thinking was a crime. Everyone had to be the same, think the same, and want the same things. The Kythera could not live that way. They would rather die free than live as slaves. A soft chime announced that the fleet was ready to jump. Vexhai put the photo back in its place and returned to the command center. His people looked to him with hope and trust. They believed he would find them a new home. He hoped they were right. "All ships report ready, Commander," Keltara announced. "Begin the jump sequence," Vexhai ordered. "Take us to this new star system. Maybe we will find friends there." The ships of the Kythera fleet activated their jump drives and disappeared into hyperspace. Behind them, the Consortium patrol vessels watched and recorded their destination. The hunters would follow eventually, but for now the refugees had a small head start. In the emptiness where the fleet had been, only the fading energy signatures remained as evidence that the last free Kythera had passed this way, carrying their hopes toward a small yellow star and the unknown world that orbited it. The journey to their new destiny had begun. The alarm bells rang loudly through the deep space monitoring station in Chile. Dr. Sarah Chen dropped her coffee mug and ran to the main detection console. The hot liquid splashed across the floor, but she did not care. The numbers on her screen were impossible. "Miguel, are you seeing this?" she called to her partner at the next workstation. Dr. Miguel Santos was already pulling up additional data. His face had gone pale. "Sarah, this has to be a malfunction. The computer is showing 47 large objects approaching from outside the solar system. Each one is the size of a city." Sarah's hands moved quickly across her keyboard, running every diagnostic test she could think of. The equipment was working perfectly. The readings were real. Something huge was coming toward Earth. "How long until they reach us?" she asked. "At their current speed, approximately 18 hours, Miguel replied. His voice was shaking slightly. "Sarah, these objects are not natural. They are artificial. They are ships." Sarah felt her heart begin to race. She had spent her entire career hoping for this moment. First contact with alien life. But now that it was happening, all she could think about was the size of the approaching fleet. "We need to contact the government immediately," she said. "This is not a drill." Within minutes, secure communication lines were buzzing with activity. The news spread from the monitoring station to the United Nations, then to every major government on Earth. Emergency meetings were called in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and London. President Harrison was in the middle of a budget meeting when his Secretary of Defense burst into the room. "Mr. President, we have a code red situation. You need to come to the situation room immediately." 15 minutes later, President Harrison was staring at satellite images of the approaching alien fleet. The ships were still too far away to see clearly, but their energy signatures were massive. "What are our options?" the President asked. General Morrison stepped forward. "Sir, we are mobilizing every military asset we have. Our nuclear submarines are moving to defensive positions. Fighter squadrons are being prepared for launch. But honestly, Mr. President, if these aliens want to destroy us, there is very little we can do to stop them." Similar conversations were happening in capital cities around the world. Panic was beginning to spread as the news leaked to the media. Television stations showed footage of military vehicles moving through cities. Radio broadcasts told people to stay in their homes and prepare for emergency evacuation. In space, the Cathara fleet continued its approach toward Earth. Commander Vex-High stood in his command center, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on his screens. It was beautiful, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown and green continents. "Sir," said Communications Officer Rethan, "we are detecting numerous radio transmissions from the planet. The inhabitants appear to be very excited about our arrival." "Excited or frightened?" Vex-High asked. "Frightened, sir. I am hearing words like invasion and attack in many of their broadcasts." Vex-High's skin showed orange streaks of worry. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. The humans thought the Cathara fleet was here to conquer their world. "We need to contact them immediately," he decided. "Show them that we are not enemies." "Sir, we do not know their language well enough for complex communication," Rethan pointed out. "Then we learn quickly," Vex-High replied. "How much of their language have we been able to understand from their radio signals? We have been listening to their transmissions for the past 3 days during our approach. Our computers have identified several basic words and phrases in what appears to be their most common language. It is called English, according to their broadcasts." Vex-High thought for a moment. The Cathara had always been good at learning new languages. It was one of their natural talents. But they only had a few hours to make contact before the humans might decide to attack. "Prepare a basic message," he ordered. "Use the simplest words we know. Tell them we are not here to fight. Tell them we need help." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen was now at the main United Nations building in New York. She had been called in as the world's leading expert in communication with unknown species. Not that anyone had ever actually communicated with aliens before, but she had written more papers on the subject than anyone else. The Security Council was in emergency session when the alien message arrived. It came on all radio frequencies at once. The voice was strange, with odd pauses and pronunciation, but the words were clearly English. "People of Earth, we are refugees. We do not wish war. We seek sanctuary. Please, we need help." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The Security Council chamber was completely silent for several long seconds. "Well," said the Secretary General finally, "that was not what we expected." Dr. Chen was already working at her laptop computer. "I need to respond to them immediately. If they are really refugees, they might be in serious trouble." "How do we know this is not a trick?" asked the Russian representative. "Perhaps they want us to lower our defenses." "We don't know," Dr. Chen admitted. "But we have to try to communicate with them. If they wanted to attack us, would they really ask for permission first?" Permission was granted to attempt contact. Dr. Chen worked quickly to set up a communication link using the Deep Space Monitoring Network. Her hands were shaking as she activated the transmission system. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth," she said slowly and clearly. "We received your message. Can you understand me?" For long minutes there was no response. Then the alien voice came back. "Dr. Sarah Chen, yes, we understand. I am Commander Vex-High of the Cathara people. We are grateful for your answer." Dr. Chen felt a thrill of excitement despite the dangerous situation. She was having the first conversation between humans and aliens in history. "Commander Vex-High, you said you are refugees. What happened to your people?" There was a pause before the reply came. When it did, Dr. Chen could hear sadness in the alien voice even though the pronunciation was strange. "We were expelled from our home. The Galactic Consortium said we were criminals. We had nowhere else to go. Your world is beautiful. We hope you will let us stay." Dr. Chen looked around the Security Council chamber. Every representative was listening carefully to the conversation. "Commander, how many of your people are with you?" she asked. 50,000 Cathara and 47 ships. We are tired and our ships are broken. Some of us are dying. We need place to land and repair." Dr. Chen's heart went out to them. 50,000 refugees fleeing across space looking for a safe place to live. But she also knew that many people on Earth would be terrified of such a large alien presence. "Commander Vex-High," she said carefully, "we need time to discuss this with our leaders. Can you wait in your current position while we talk?" "Sarah Chen, We can wait short time. But our people are sick and dying. We need help soon or many will not survive. The communication ended, leaving the Security Council to face an impossible decision. Earth had never encountered aliens before. Now they had to decide whether to welcome 50,000 refugees or turn them away to die in space. Outside the United Nations building, crowds were gathering as news of the alien contact spread around the world. Some people carried signs saying, "Welcome to Earth," while others demanded that the military destroy the alien fleet before it could land. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the Kithara refugees, but the future of humanity itself. The United Nations General Assembly had never seen anything like it. Representatives from all 193 member nations sat in the Great Hall, their faces tense with worry and fear. Above them, huge screens showed images of the alien fleet waiting at the edge of the solar system. Secretary General Martinez stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. He had been preparing for this moment since Dr. Chen's first contact with the aliens 6 hours ago. In that time, the world had changed forever. "Fellow representatives," he began, "we face a decision that will define humanity for generations to come. 50,000 alien refugees seek sanctuary on our world. They claim to be peaceful. They ask for our help. The question before us is simple. What kind of species do we choose to be?" The British representative raised his hand and was recognized to speak. "Mr. Secretary General, how can we trust these creatures? We know nothing about them except what they have told us. They could be lying. They could be planning to invade our world and kill us all." Murmurs of agreement came from several other delegates. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. Dr. Chen stepped to the microphone. She had spent the last 6 hours in continuous communication with Commander Vexhai, learning everything she could about the Kithara people. "I have been studying their communication patterns," she said. "I have analyzed their speech, their behavior, and their responses to our questions. In my professional opinion, these beings are incapable of deception." The Russian representative stood up. "Dr. Chen, with respect, that is impossible. All intelligent species are capable of lying. It is a basic survival skill." "Not for the Kithara," Dr. Chen replied. "They evolved past the need for deception millions of years ago. Their brain structure actually prevents them from creating false statements. When Commander Vexhai tells us they are peaceful refugees, he is telling us the literal truth." She activated the main screen to show brain scan images that the Kithara had transmitted to Earth. "Look at these neural patterns," she continued. "The areas that control deception and manipulation are completely inactive. They have evolved beyond such primitive behaviors. They are physically incapable of lying to us." The Chinese representative spoke next. "Even if they cannot lie, accepting them could bring great danger to Earth. They mentioned something called the Galactic Consortium. What if this organization comes looking for these refugees? We could be caught in the middle of an alien war." Dr. Chen had been expecting this question. Commander Vexhai has been very honest about that risk. "The consortium might eventually discover that Earth is harboring Kithara refugees. But he also told me something else. The consortium considers Earth to be a primitive, unimportant world. They believe we pose no threat to them. As long as we stay quiet and do not interfere with their other activities, they will probably leave us alone." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued that helping the refugees was humanity's moral duty. Others insisted that the risk was too great. The Indian delegate pointed out that Earth had a long history of accepting refugees from wars and disasters. The American representative worried about the economic impact of supporting 50,000 aliens. Meanwhile, in space, the situation aboard the Kithara fleet was getting worse. Dr. Chen had arranged for continuous communication with Commander Vexhai so she could monitor their condition. "Dr. Chen," came the alien commander's voice through the speakers in the UN Assembly Hall. "I must tell you something difficult. We have lost 2 more ships in the past hour. Their life support systems failed completely. 3,000 of my people are dead." A shocked silence fell over the assembly. These were not just numbers on a report. Real beings were dying while Earth's leaders debated. "How much longer can your people survive?" Dr. Chen asked gently. "Perhaps 2 days," Vexhai replied. "Maybe less. Our children are the most vulnerable. They are dying first." The Secretary General felt tears come to his eyes. He thought of his own grandchildren and tried to imagine them trapped in broken ships, slowly dying in the cold emptiness of space. The French representative requested permission to speak. "Mr. Secretary General, I have a question for Commander Vexhai directly." "You may ask," came the alien voice. "Commander, what can your people offer Earth in exchange for sanctuary? What would be the benefit to us?" Vexhai's response was immediate. "We offer everything we have. Our knowledge of science and medicine, our art and culture, our friendship and loyalty. The Kithera have been exploring space for 50,000 years. We have cured diseases, developed clean energy, and learned to live in harmony with nature. All of this we will share freely if you give us a place to call home." The German representative leaned forward with interest. "What kind of medical knowledge do you possess?" "We have eliminated most cancers, genetic diseases, and age-related illnesses among our people. We can extend healthy lifespans to over 200 years. We can regrow damaged organs and repair spinal injuries." A buzz of excitement went through the assembly. The medical advances alone could save millions of human lives. The Japanese delegate asked about their energy technology. "We use clean fusion reactors that produce no harmful waste," Vexhai explained. "We can provide unlimited energy for your entire planet without damaging your environment." More excited discussion filled the hall. Clean unlimited energy would solve climate change and power humanity's expansion into space. But not everyone was convinced. The South African representative stood up. "These promises sound wonderful, but what guarantee do we have? How do we know you will actually share this knowledge?" "Because," Vexhai replied, "the Kithera believe that knowledge belongs to all intelligent beings. We were punished by the Consortium for refusing to keep our discoveries secret. Sharing what we know is not just our offer to you, it is who we are." The debate continued, but Dr. Chen could see that the mood in the room was changing. Fear was slowly being replaced by hope and curiosity. The possibility of learning from an advanced alien civilization was incredibly exciting. Then the Brazilian representative asked the question that changed everything. "Commander Vexhai, why should we trust you? You are strangers to us. How do we know you will not turn against us once you are strong again?" There was a long pause before the alien commander responded. When he did speak, his voice was full of deep emotion. "Dr. Chen has asked me many questions about my people. I will tell you something I have not yet shared. The Kithera were not always refugees. Once we were strong and proud. We had a great civilization spanning many worlds, but we made a terrible mistake. We became so focused on our own perfection that we forgot to help others. When smaller, weaker species asked for our aid, we turned them away. We thought we were too important to waste time on primitive beings." He paused again, and Dr. Chen could hear the sadness in his voice. "The universe has a way of teaching harsh lessons. When the Consortium turned against us, when we became the ones who needed help, those same species we had ignored refused to help us. We learned what it means to be alone and afraid. We learned that strength means nothing without compassion." The assembly hall was completely quiet. "If you give us sanctuary," Vexhai continued, "we will never forget that lesson. We will spend the rest of our existence trying to repay your kindness, not because we owe you a debt, but because we have learned that helping others is the only thing that gives life real meaning." Secretary General Martinez felt something change in the room. The fear was gone. In its place was something he had not expected to see. Hope. "The vote will now be taken," he announced. "All those in favor of granting sanctuary to the Kithera refugees, please raise your hands." Slowly, hands began to rise around the Great Hall. First a few, then dozens, then more than half the assembly. When the count was finished, 147 nations had voted to welcome the alien refugees. Earth had made its choice. Now they would discover if they had chosen wisely. 5 years had passed since the Kithera fleet landed in the remote areas of Australia and Antarctica. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on a hill overlooking New Kithera, the largest settlement the refugees had built in the Australian outback. The sight never failed to amaze her. The city was like nothing Earth had ever seen. Tall spires made of a crystal-like material reached toward the sky, their surfaces changing color with the time of day. Gardens filled with both earth plants and Kithera crops covered every available space. Clean energy from fusion reactors powered everything without producing any pollution. "It is beautiful, is it not?" said a familiar voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Commander Vexhai approaching. His skin now showed the soft blue patterns that meant contentment and peace. The desperate purple streaks of fear and sadness that had marked him during their first meeting were long gone. It really is, Sarah agreed. Your people have built something wonderful here. Vexhai joined her in looking down at the city. Human and Kithara children played together in the parks. Scientists from both species worked side by side in the research centers. Market areas bustled with activity as people traded goods and ideas. We could not have done this alone, Vexhai said. Your people have taught us much about building in Earth's environment, and you have given us something even more precious than land to live on. What's that? Sarah asked. Hope, the Kithara commander replied simply. For the first time in many years, my people believe in the future again. Sarah smiled. The integration had not always been easy, but it had been remarkably successful. The Kithara had kept their promise to share their knowledge freely. Earth's technology had advanced by centuries in just 5 years. The medical breakthroughs alone had changed human civilization. Kithara healing techniques had eliminated most cancers and genetic diseases. Heart disease was now completely curable. Damaged spinal cords could be regrown in a matter of weeks. The average human lifespan had increased to over 150 years. Energy production had been revolutionized by Kithara fusion technology. Clean, unlimited power now supplied the entire planet. The climate change crisis that had threatened humanity for decades was finally being solved, as fossil fuels became completely unnecessary. Agriculture had been transformed by Kithara farming methods. Desert regions were now green and fertile. Food production had increased so dramatically that hunger was becoming a thing of the past. The techniques worked so well that Earth was actually producing more food than its population needed. But the changes went deeper than just technology. The Kithara had brought new ideas about art, philosophy, and social organization. Human artists worked with Kithara creators to produce music, paintings, and sculptures that neither species could have imagined alone. The educational system had been completely reformed. Kithara teachers showed human children how to think in new ways, while human teachers helped young Kithara understand Earth's history and culture. The children who grew up in this mixed environment were remarkable, more creative, more compassionate, and more intelligent than any previous generation. Sarah, Vexhai said, breaking into her thoughts, I need to tell you something important. Our deep space sensors have detected Consortium scout ships at the edge of your solar system. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. This was the day they had all been dreading. How long have they been there? 3 days. They are watching and gathering information, but they have not made contact. I believe they are trying to understand what has happened here. Sarah looked down at the thriving city below them. What do you think they will do? I do not know, Vexhai admitted. The Consortium has never encountered a situation like this before. They expected Earth to remain primitive and isolated. Instead, they find a world that has advanced rapidly and formed an alliance with the species they exiled. Are your people afraid? Sarah asked. Vexhai's skin showed thoughtful orange patterns. Some are, but most are ready to face whatever comes. We are not the same beings who fled in terror 5 years ago. We have rebuilt our strength and we are no longer alone. The next morning, Sarah was awakened by an urgent call from the United Nations. Secretary General Martinez was on the video screen looking tired and worried. Sarah, we need you in New York immediately. The aliens have made contact. 2 hours later, Sarah was in the UN Security Council chamber listening to a recording of the alien transmission. The voice was different from Vexhai's, colder and more mechanical. People of Earth, the message began. This is Admiral Kresh of the Galactic Consortium fleet. We have become aware that you are harboring criminals who were exiled from civilized space. These beings are dangerous and must be surrendered immediately. The message continued with threats and demands. The Consortium was giving Earth 72 hours to hand over all Kithara refugees or face appropriate consequences. What kind of consequences? Asked the American representative. Dr. Chen had been in communication with Vexhai throughout the morning. According to the commander, the Consortium typically uses orbital bombardment to sterilize planets they consider to be contaminated. They would destroy all life on Earth. The British delegate looked shocked. They would commit genocide over a refugee crisis. The Consortium does not see it as genocide, Sarah explained. They believe they are preventing the spread of dangerous ideas. To them, independent thinking is like a disease that must be stopped before it infects other worlds. Secretary General Martinez stood up. What do the Kithara recommend we do? Commander Vexhai suggests we meet with the Consortium Admiral. He believes there might be a way to negotiate a peaceful solution. The meeting was arranged for the next day. Admiral Kresh came down to Earth in a small shuttle, accompanied by a heavy guard force. He was a tall, thin being with gray skin and no visible emotions. His species, the Veltar, had undergone the neural conditioning that the Kythera had refused. The Consortium Admiral sat across from Dr. Chen, Secretary General Martinez, and Commander Vexhai in the UN conference room. His cold eyes showed no warmth or understanding. "You have made a serious mistake," Admiral Kresh told the human leaders. "The Kythera are defective beings who spread chaos wherever they go. They refuse to accept the harmony that makes civilized society possible." "What kind of harmony?" Sarah asked. "The removal of destructive emotions and thoughts," the Admiral replied. "Fear, anger, ambition, creativity. These things lead only to conflict and suffering. The Consortium has brought peace to thousands of worlds by eliminating such problems." Sarah looked at Vexhai, whose skin was showing red patterns of anger. "You call it peace," the Kythera commander said. "We call it death. You have turned entire civilizations into empty shells. Beings who cannot think or feel or dream are not truly alive." Admiral Kresh stared at Vexhai with disgust. "This is exactly the kind of dangerous thinking that led to your exile. You spread dissatisfaction and rebellion wherever you go." "We spread hope," Vexhai replied firmly. "We show others that there is more to existence than mindless obedience." The Consortium Admiral turned to Secretary General Martinez. "You have seen the influence these creatures have had on your world. They have filled your people with dangerous ideas about individual freedom and creative expression. If you do not surrender them now, this infection will spread until your entire species is contaminated." Martinez stood up slowly. He had been listening carefully to both sides, and now he understood what the real choice was. "Admiral Kresh," he said in a calm, steady voice, "I think you misunderstand the situation. The Kythera have not infected us with dangerous ideas. They have reminded us of something we almost forgot." "And what is that?" the Admiral asked. "That being alive means more than just existing," Martinez replied. "It means thinking and feeling and dreaming and creating. It means being free to choose our own path, even if that path is difficult." Admiral Kresh's expression did not change, but his voice became colder. "Then you have chosen to stand with the criminals. The consequences will be severe." "Yes," Martinez said without hesitation. "We choose to stand with our friends." The Consortium fleet arrived in Earth's solar system like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. Admiral Kresh commanded 300 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything Earth had ever built. The massive vessels took positions around Earth, their weapons trained on the planet below. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the newly built Earth Defense Station, watching the enemy fleet on the main screen. Beside her, Commander Vexhai studied the tactical displays with worried orange patterns flowing across his skin. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "Admiral Kresh has given us 6 hours to surrender all Kythera refugees," replied Secretary General Martinez through the communication system. "After that, he says he will begin orbital bombardment." Sarah looked at the defensive fleet that Earth and the Kythera had built together over the past 5 years. 50 ships compared to the Consortium's 300. They were smaller and less heavily armed, but they used hybrid technology that combined human innovation with Kythera science. "Commander," Sarah said to Vexhai, "what are our chances?" "In a direct fight we cannot win," the Kythera leader admitted. "But we do not need to win. We only need to survive long enough." "Long enough for what?" Vexhai's skin showed the silver patterns of hope mixed with determination. "Long enough for the galaxy to see what we have accomplished here. For 5 years, we have been broadcasting everything that happened on Earth to the hidden networks that still exist in Consortium space. There are others who think like we do, Sarah. Others who are tired of living under the Consortium's control." On the main screen, Admiral Kresh's cold face appeared. "People of Earth, your time is up. Will you surrender the Kythera criminals or will you face destruction?" Secretary General Martinez stepped forward to respond. "Admiral Kresh, we have prepared a message for you and the Consortium Council." Martinez activated a prepared broadcast that would be transmitted not just to the enemy fleet, but across the entire galaxy using the Kythera communication network. "To all beings who can hear this message," Martinez began, "we are the people of Earth. 5 years ago, refugees came to our world seeking sanctuary. They were the Kythera, a people exiled for refusing to surrender their freedom of thought. We welcomed them not because we had to, but because it was the right thing to do. The broadcast showed images of the integrated cities where humans and Cathara lived and worked together, children of both species playing in schools, scientists collaborating on research projects, artists creating beautiful works that neither species could have imagined alone. Together, we have accomplished more than either of our peoples could achieve separately, Martinez continued. We have eliminated disease, ended hunger, and created clean, unlimited energy. We have built a society based on cooperation instead of domination, on diversity instead of conformity. The images shifted to show the defensive fleet that protected Earth, human and Cathara crews working side by side on ships that represented the best of both technologies. The Consortium tells us that independent thinking is dangerous, Martinez said. They claim that diversity leads to chaos and conflict. But look at what we have built together. Look at what becomes possible when different peoples work as equals rather than as masters and slaves. Admiral Kresh's face appeared on the screen again, his expression showing irritation. Enough of this propaganda. You have chosen to stand with criminals. Now you will face the consequences. The Consortium ships began moving into bombardment positions, their weapons charged with energy that could burn entire continents. But before they could fire, something unexpected happened. Ships began dropping out of hyperspace behind the Consortium fleet. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. The vessels came from dozens of different species, all carrying the same message. "This is Captain Mordan of the Helix Republic," came a voice over the communication channels. "We stand with Earth." "This is Admiral Zaytek of the Free Worlds Alliance," said another voice. "We will not allow the Consortium to destroy those who show us a better way." "This is Commander Velshan of the Independent Systems," came a third voice. "Today we choose freedom." Admiral Kresh stared at his tactical displays in shock. His 300 ships were now facing over 1,000 enemy vessels from species throughout the galaxy. But these were not the primitive rebels he was used to fighting. These were organized fleets with advanced technology and experienced crews. "This is impossible," he said to his officers. "Where did they all come from?" His communications officer looked up from her console with confusion on her face. "Sir, we are receiving surrender demands from the rebel fleet. They are ordering us to stand down and return to Consortium space immediately." Admiral Kresh had never been in a situation like this. For centuries, the Consortium had been the strongest force in the galaxy. No one had ever dared to challenge them so directly. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "the enemy fleet is moving to surround us. They have us outnumbered 3-1. On Earth, Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold with amazement. The rebel fleet had not fired a single shot, but their mere presence had changed everything. The Consortium ships found themselves trapped, unable to retreat or advance. Commander Vexhai's skin was glowing with brilliant gold patterns that Sarah had never seen before. "What does that color mean?" she asked. "Joy," Vexhai replied, his voice filled with emotion. "Perfect, overwhelming joy. For the first time in my life, I am seeing the galaxy stand up to tyranny." A new voice came over the communication channels. It was Admiral Kresh, but he sounded very different than before. The cold confidence was gone, replaced by uncertainty and fear. "Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Kresh of the Consortium fleet. You are interfering with a legitimate law enforcement operation." The response came from multiple ships at once, dozens of voices speaking as one. "There is nothing legitimate about genocide, Admiral. There is nothing lawful about destroying an entire world because its people choose to think for themselves." Admiral Kresh tried to maintain his authority. "The Cathara are criminals who were legally exiled from civilized space. The humans are harboring fugitives. The only criminals here are those who would murder billions of innocent beings," came the reply. "Admiral Kresh, you have one chance to avoid bloodshed. Order your fleet to return to Consortium space immediately." Sarah held her breath as she waited for the Consortium Admiral's response. Around her, human and Cathara officers watched their screens tensely. The next few minutes would determine the fate of not just Earth but the entire galaxy. Finally, Admiral Kresh spoke again. His voice was barely a whisper. "Consortium fleet, prepare for withdrawal. We are returning to home space." As the Consortium ships began their retreat, celebrations erupted across Earth and throughout the rebel fleet. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The Consortium would not accept this defeat easily. Over the following months, the rebellion that had started on Earth spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been suppressed for centuries threw off their neural conditioning and reclaimed their freedom. The rigid order that the Consortium had maintained for so long began to crumble. Earth became the center of a new galactic alliance based on cooperation and mutual respect. The Cathara were no longer refugees. They were founding members of a community that welcomed diversity and celebrated differences. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood once again on the hill overlooking New Cathara. The city had grown enormously, becoming a meeting place for beings from hundreds of worlds. The crystal spires now reached even higher into the sky, their changing colors reflecting the hopes and dreams of countless species. Commander Vexhai joined her, as he had so many times before. His skin showed the deep blue patterns of contentment, mixed with the silver of hope. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked. "Coming to Earth, I mean. You could have found some isolated world and lived quietly. Instead, you started a galactic revolution." Vexhai was quiet for a long moment, thinking about her question. "Sarah, my people were dying not just in their bodies, but in their souls. We had given up hope of ever being free again, but Earth showed us something we had forgotten. What was that?" "That home is not a place," Vexhai replied. "Home is the people who stand beside you when everything seems lost. Earth did not just give us sanctuary. Earth gave us back our faith in the future." As they watched, a ship landed in the spaceport below. The passengers who emerged were refugees from a distant world, seeking the same sanctuary that the Cathara had found 5 years ago. Human and Cathara volunteers stepped forward to welcome them. Just as Earth had welcomed the Cathara, the galaxy was changing, one refugee at a time. And it all started with a simple choice to help those who had nowhere else to go.